Good morning, my friends. Everything going well in the world of academia and the world of clinicking. I don't know if, Mike, I don't know how much you've slowed down. Just time of the year, so everybody knows we're kind of past even Thanksgiving as we record this. So we're kind of into winter concerts, Christmas concerts.
It's kind of a dark joke about it, but I tell directors like I'm like the side girlfriend. I'm real important when I'm needed. And then as soon as they don't need me anymore, then I'm forgotten about completely.
So,
I dare you to leave that in the podcast.
Mr. Lester, you're like teaching and clinicking at the same time.
Yeah, well, I think of Mike. When I think of Mike and clinicking, and I think of seasons. And right now we're in Christmas season.
We're in Christmas.
Right.
And that's not a time when you have clinicians. It's kind of like May concert season.
Oh, yeah.
That's not kind of funny. Mike Lenny's out doing clinics.
Nice. I just play with grandsons.
Yeah, that time leading up to the marching contest season and that time leading up to the UIL concert season is when we're at busiest.
Yes.
You mean you're not getting, hey, Mr. Lenny, could you come help us with sleigh ride? We're not getting that horse Winnie just right.
You'd be surprised. They do want help with that.
Although I saw our mutual friend Eric Baker recruited the rest of the section in the West Texas Symphony to put on horse heads this year.
Oh, it's contagious.
And bow ties that lit up.
Yeah, he hand made those.
Really?
Yeah, he did a deal, showed how he did it. He bought them off of Amazon, and he put it on a wire hanger and made the bow tie. I thought only Baker,
Okay, but wife asked me if we were going to do that, and I said it's already been done. It would be copying at this point.
Yeah, say it's reactionary.
It'd be fraudulent.
But let me ask you, since we brought up clinicking, since we brought up the seasons and that kind of stuff, and I guess right now we're kind of in the season of what am I going to play for spring evaluation? What am I looking at? And people start going through some of that. And so both of you guys are going to get all kinds of questions and probably opportunities to go into band halls all over the state. But let me ask you, I'm not necessarily asking for horror stories, although there's a part of my humor that would enjoy listening. Have there been times that you thought to yourself, what am I doing here? Or why did you call me right now?
Sure.
There's a director that invited me out. I'd clinic. I'll use that word loosely. His band about 7 times, and I would go out for his marching rehearsal, and I'd get up in the stands, and I would talk for about 3 minutes, and then he'd look at me and he'd go, "And there's some things I need to look at." Sure, and so he'd work the band for 3 hours. And I'd sit there and I'd watch him work his band for 3 hours. It wasn't a very good band, so it wasn't enjoyable watching him work his band. But then he'd hand me a check for $300, and I'd drive back to my house. And at the end, he goes, "Would you like to say a few words to him?" And I said, "Sure." And so I'd give him a little pep talk at the end, and I'd take my money. And I'm thinking, what was the whole point of this? I would have much rather been watching Monday Night Football on that Monday night than to do that. So not necessarily a horror story, but it's like, you're invited to come out, and our goal, I'll speak for Jay because I know we think alike. Great minds and small minds think alike. So we'll let the audience make their choice of what we're talking about. But we go out because we want to help the band director, and we want to help the kids. And no one's getting filthy rich off of clinicking. It's not. There's not an investment portfolio attached to my clinic record. So I do it because I really do enjoy.
Can you imagine the loan officer?
Yeah.
You do clinics.
You do band clinics. Okay.
I'll get you, Mr. Lenny.
Let's get you a Bugatti as a luxury vehicle. But no, we do it because we really enjoy the relationships, and we enjoy seeing the kids, and we want to be helpful. So the idea behind this is, what things can we give information to band directors on how to better approach this scenario in order to get the most out of us and to get the most out of their kids. So I turn it over to Jay, in terms of I know he's got probably 100.
It's funny that you said that story about marching. I had the same thing happen with a concert clinic about 15 years ago. I walked in, I said, "I'm going to warm them up, and then I'm going to turn it over to you." And about 50 minutes later, he turned to me and said, "Is there anything you'd like to say?" And the bell rang. And I said, No.
I think we're good. Luke McBillen worked for me for many, many years, and we had an assistant band director that worked at our middle school. And our over and under was how many minutes until she pushes the clinician off the podium. And I usually won that because it was usually under 5 minutes. But that clinician would be over standing to the side while the band director was working the band. And an amazing band director, by the way. But it was just, we always got just a chuckle out of it. Said, okay, write the check out to the clinician. Said, he came and watched the rehearsal.
But I'm telling you, I have other friends who have told me that they have actually stopped and said, I'm not doing any of us any good.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Because of either
So
it's too uncomfortable to teach here, or the kids aren't paying attention, or they're not. There's no kids here, or there are any number of reasons.
that kind of leads into one thing that I put in my notes.
Okay.
And that is, make sure you have a plan for your clinician before you come and bring them in. So, for instance, what do you want them to do?
Specifically.
Are they coming to listen? Are they coming to interject? Are they coming to conduct? Do you want them just to write notes in the score? We used to play this game that Don Hanna he came up with this. I don't know if he came up with it, but he called it Red Flag. And he would go, you'd stand in the back of the room, you would listen from different points of the rehearsal, and you would just raise your hand and say, this is what I hear. And it would just be a quick stop, interject, this is what we hear from this vantage point, and then restart.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it, the closer you get to the performance or the contest or whatever, the evaluation, the more you want the conductor on the podium.
Yes.
And the less that you want the clinician conducting on the podium. That way they can do it and you can say, hey, we'll stop right here. And this is what I hear. The balance issues or tuning or something like that.
Yeah.
But see, that actually makes sense as long as the point is the clinician has the freedom to step in and say, oh yeah, whoa. As opposed to what Mike said, where that guy just
No.
and
Same thing with me. There was no opportunity.
Yeah. They just did their thing.
But that goes in communication.
Yeah.
Ahead of time, you should have a plan for your clinician and for the experience. It makes it easier on everybody. And the other thing I put in my notes that Mike's notes are just wonderful, but introduce your clinician.
Yeah. I forgot.
First thing, introduce the clinician, tell them a little bit about the person, why they're there, make them feel comfortable. We want the students to feel comfortable and welcoming.
Yeah.
Because it's awkward and I know we've shared some stories where walk in and you go, you're in 10 minutes into the rehearsal and you're just standing on the sideline or over in the side of the room and there's been no mention of we're having a clinician today.
FYI.
But
I've actually gone to a marching rehearsal and I kind of interjected and kind of got on the field, just field tech.
Mm-hmm.
And then a kid looked at me and goes, who are you?
Who are you?
They didn't know if I'm just some guy that wandered off the highway. And then they were very polite about it. So, who are you? My name's Mike Lenny, and I came to help your band. Your director invited me out here. Oh, okay. But Willie Owens taught me this because doing all region bands.
Mm-hmm.
He said that write out your own introduction and give it to the host to read because this sounds almost narcissistic, but the kids need to have a feeling that someone who knows what they're doing is in front of them for the next 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then once you get on the podium, said your job is to talk about how incredible these kids all you earn these spots. You're the all-stars of this group. And I'm honored to be here. And I always use this kind of little phraseology with doing all region bands now. I tell them I'm not a full-time band director. This is a really special day to me. Because when I was a full-time band director, I got to do lots of concerts and take the jazz band places. Said now maybe twice a year, I get to conduct on a stage and make music with kids. And said, I just want you to know this is a really special day to me. And that just kind of makes everybody kind of feel a little bit more at ease instead of me coming in as I gotcha. Did you not practice your parts? That kind of thing. So just a little tip to throw in there.
So obviously, welcome, everybody. This is Ask Mike, great friend Jay Lester. And Mike and I are glad to do this. But specifically, I want to make sure we say this and kind of clicked in my head when Jay said what he said, that we are actually trying to talk today about preparation to have your group clinic or to welcome in a clinician, or the freedom for your kids to learn something may count or depend on how well you prepare for that moment.
Yeah.
Is that an overstatement? Does that sound too dramatic?
No.
Otherwise, you're
right on the money.
All right. And Mike, I'm going to kind of default to you on this because you two have done this. I've always been a recipient of a clinician. And I will tell you that I still remember there were times I thought, well, there's 3 hours I'll never get back. Even as a student sitting in the ensemble, or, man, I wish that guy came every day. And I think reality is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think preparation and presentation go so far into whether that group is actually going to learn something. And I'm not talking about the clinician's preparation. I'm talking about Mr. Day-to-day, this is what we do, but we're welcoming somebody in. Is that a fair statement? That so much is dependent on how you prepare your kids and or that moment for that person to come in and actually do something.
Yeah. And to kind of back it up a little bit, it's the first thing as a director, you've got to make contact with whatever clinicians you're wanting to utilize, email, telephone, text, whatever your normal communication is with that person, and give them some different dates that they have that don't conflict with things at their school. And I don't know how Jay does it, but I keep on my phone in notes all the things I'm going to do for the semester, and then I just copy paste, and I say that find a hole, find a hole. And the days that I don't want to do anything, I just say not available on that day because I know I'm going to go, hang out with my grandsons or whatever, or just sit at home and watch TV. I don't know, because I'm supposedly retired, so it's so I go do that. So, just make sure you communicate because I don't know, I'm sure Jay has run into this where you get a call on a Monday afternoon during football season. Hey, I just wonder if you were doing anything tonight. I'd love to have you come clinic the band in about 3 hours. It's like, well, I'm on my way to Fredericksburg right now, but
Right.
and it's not that there's so many good clinicians out there. It's better just to take care of that I would say at least a month in advance, at least. I've already got probably 20 things scheduled for next fall that are clinic sessions. So it's a matter of if you want that person and you feel like they do a good job with your band, it's not always about how good you are as a musician, is it, Jay?
No.
It's if you connect with those kids and those kids listen to you and the director feels like they learn from you. And I was teasing, didn't chase a rabbit, we're good about that. But I asked Luke McMillan, a good friend of mine, he has a music writing business. And I said, man, this guy, he keeps calling me back, wants me to come out and said, I don't think I'm really that great at what I do. He goes, Mike, you're dependable. So you show up, you present the paperwork, you do your job. You don't call that day and say, oh, I don't feel good, I can't come over. So you're dependable. You show up and you do your job. Said that's probably 90% of it. Just have someone come in. But Jay, anything you want to add to that?
I can remember when I was first starting out as a teacher. This was 30 years ago, 30 plus.
God, you're old.
I know. And I wanted to have Mr. McIntyre out in Odessa. And they said, make sure you call him early, give him specifics, and be prepared for whatever he wants to work on because he won't get past concert F if he's not happy with it. And at that time, and I know we can all relate. Well, I was so concerned with getting notes and rhythms and everything out. And he said something to me that day that really stuck with me in my whole career. Take time now to save time later.
Ooh, that's cool.
Make sure they're listening and everything they're playing is 100%. Because if you can't get past concert F, then what's the point?
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Now, there is a balance.
Yeah.
You can dwell on it too long. But the older I get, the more experienced, the more I realize we have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So true.
I'll say it one more time. Take time now to save time later.
That's what he said.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he talks about kind of Jay buffering that. There's a real skill as a band director in knowing what's going to fix itself and what you have to fix. Because I've had like student teachers that I've had as when I was teaching full time that we'd go through, I don't know, Vesuvius by Frank Kelly. We'd be working on, and they'd go, "How come you didn't stop and work on this?" Oh, they'll get that part. This is what they're not going to figure out over here. If I just do that 16 times in a row, they're going to figure that part out. So that's a hard thing for younger band directors because they'll,
well, what I call it is what can you let go?
Yeah, what can you let go? What can you
right now?
Yeah, for right now.
For right now. And somebody will, like, even with my college group, you start off at the beginning and it's not very good, but you think that's going to, over time, that's going to get better.
It's going to get better.
Because they need to have some time with the technique.
Yeah.
And some practice. But if you just stop and hammer it and drill on it, it's not going to get better. It's just going to frustrate you.
Oh, yeah. And I remember as a college kid going to my band director, are we ever going to work on that part? And he just tap the brakes, Lenny, tap the brakes. Said it's going to work out. Said, you play the trumpet, I teach the band.
I wave my hand.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question relative to that. Are you not selling your kids short if you don't allow them the opportunity to become a musician and figure stuff out, as opposed to stopping everything and saying, "Now you're not smart enough to figure this out, so I have to teach you every iota of this music"? And maybe that's a weird way to ask that, but part of that is learning how to grow as a musician, to think, and Mike and I have had this conversation before, I could do that better and actually dig in and learn something there, as opposed to the person with the stick saying, "I don't think you're ever going to get that," which is, I think, another way to say what Mike said. Learn what to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff they'll just figure out. But okay, I'm going to break it real quick because, again, I'm trying to think of somebody who may not have done this before. Mike, you said there's lots of clinicians out there, but is this kind of a network thing? If you think your group needs a clinician, and I think everybody assumes they need a clinician, and it's probably wisdom to get another ear in there to listen to what's going on at some point. But I mean, is there a forum board somewhere that says, "Hey, here's some clinicians"? You understand what I'm asking?
There's not a lot of stuff like that. I know a good friend of mine, Doug Fullwood, Band Hacks, he started a page where we could he asked us to put in our information, like just our contact info, where in the state we're comfortable traveling to, if we wanted to put kind of how much we normally charge. We'll get to kind of the monetary issues later, but it's, just to say, just to give people something to do. But most people just kind of network it out. I think the most go-to thing, and Jay, I know, is starting to probably encounter this a lot, is you go to your old college band director. You know what I mean? When I got out of college, it's like, I'm going to get Bob Jorgensen to come do my band in Throckmorton. So here's Bob Jorgensen, solo euphonium for the Army Band, working my Class A Throckmorton band on Kentucky 1800. You know what I mean? And it kind of goes from there, and we just kind of meet people. I think one really cool team, just to kind of throw out there, is that John Sweet, who's now at Washington State University, and Brian Hekamovich, who's now at Fredericksburg. They were at Spur and Jayton together. So they varied their rehearsals from Monday to Tuesday night for marching, and they'd go help each other out. So these two guys at two little 1A schools in the middle of nowhere in West Texas now have these thriving programs, and one's a doctorate in music. And but they couldn't get clinicians to come out there. So that's how they solved their problem. They just looked at each other and said, "We're going to be each other's clinician."
That's cool. And I got one of the guys I like Kip Brewer down in Gold Lake. He just shows up at St. Sabbath's rehearsal and volunteers, or he goes to somebody else, or he'll ask me. He said, "Hey, who can I go see?" As his ed rep, he would say, "Who could I go see that I could get something from?" That's awesome, but I don't think that's the norm. We've had this mentorship conversation before. People don't really want people to know what they don't know, so I'm sure there's some reticence to say, "Hey, could you come listen to my group? I've been working for 3 weeks and tell me everything that I haven't done." Or that I'm, they're just worried that somebody's going to say, "What are you doing?"
Well, there's some vulnerability you have to have.
Yeah. That's where I'm going. Good.
And you've got to be able to have a thick skin.
Yeah. And that's harder and harder to find.
It is.
It is. I'm sorry.
There's some really good directors out there that don't want people in.
No.
And I just... Me personally, I always wanted another set of ears, because what am I missing?
Yeah,
right.
But I would
That's exactly right.
And sometimes I say the same thing you're saying. We say that's in my notes here. The clinician will come in and say something. The director will say, that's what I've been telling the kids all. Well, sometimes we just have to say it in a different way, or maybe the kids could hear it.
Yeah.
Or you hold their feet to the fire and make them do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I always use this example, and I don't know how proper this is, but I always tell the kids that there's things I'm going to say that are going to resonate more with you today that your director has said over and over again. The difference is he's the every Sunday preacher, and you get tired of listening to him. I'm the evangelist. It's the same Jesus. It's the same Bible, but more people come forward for the evangelist. And I said, so don't think your directors ignored these things, and they all kind of think about it and they go, oh, like that. Because we've all been there on that other end where like you just have to bite your tongue because it's like, because you have to admit to yourself, either I did not present that correctly or I just needed a different voice to say it a different way. But you just bite your tongue. And what I always tried to do is make the clinician look like the most intelligent, important person in the world to those kids. When I'd have Don Hanna come in, I mean, we'd roll out the red carpet and we'd talk about him. Francis Macbeth worked my band, on Sailors and Whales. And we just think, of course, he is incredible. Both those guys are incredible. But the kids knew coming in that this really good musician was going to come in. And I would tell them, said, I do these clinics for two reasons. One, to make you better. That's half the clinic. The other half is so I can meet with them afterwards and I can become better as a band director. Said, I don't do these clinics for you guys. So I'm doing it for me. You're just kind of an off product of this. And they just kind of chuckle and they'd go, well, he's not wrong. Mr. Lundy could use a little bit of help, But very logistical thing. The philosophy stuff's really great, but one hurdle to kind of watch out for, make sure to tell the clinician the address. And are we at the auditorium? Are we on stage? Are we in the band hall? Are we in the black box theater? Are we rehearsing in the parking lot with stands and clothespins? Tell them what's happening. Tell them at this time of day, do they need to check through the front? Do they need to make sure to take their driver's license in and check through? Or is it this after school and it's not necessary? All those little things that a director takes for granted because I see every day. As a clinician, when you go to 4 schools in 1 week, different schools, it's completely different. There's some schools I just walk into like I own the place. There's some schools I walk up and by the time I come out of the parking lot, there's a police officer meeting me there going, excuse me, sir, can I help you? And they walk me to the front office. And I say, I respect that completely. Be sure to give the clinician clear directions on how to get to the rehearsal. Make sure you give them your cell number because I've gotten to the point where I ask for it, but when I first started doing this, I would think, oh, well, I've got their office number, that kid's kind of strange, and we need to make sure to kind of bounce off what Jay mentioned earlier. What is our purpose for being there? If it's a marching practice, is it marching fundamentals? Is it body movement? Is it the arc of our drill? Teaching drill?
I went out one this year where it was like they hadn't learned drill.
Yeah, or the director doesn't know how to teach drill.
Or drill. So I taught drill, showed them how some techniques, how to teach drill, how to get from point A to B, how to do counts.
Yeah, but it'd been an advantage if that director would have had the foresight to say, hey, Mr. Lester, when you come out, we don't have a system on teaching drill. Can you help us do that? And sometimes directors don't know what they don't know, and I understand that. But sometimes you go do clinics for directors who've been in the business for 20 years and you're still kind of confused when you come through the door. Does he just want me in his ear? Does he want me to conduct the band? Does he want me to teach this? Does he want me to just watch? And so just have a plan for that because, a lot of times they think we're stuck in our ways. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Jay. They think because how many times have you been asked this question? Hey, Mr. Lester, how do you want to do this clinic? If you're almost every clinic, how do you want to do this clinic? Because I'm always like, well, what are you needing?
It's your clinic.
Yeah, I always try to liken it to, it'd be like me going to the doctor and saying, the doctor going, well, Mike, how would you like this appointment to go?
Well, that's why I'm glad you said that, though. Because I'll bring it up.
Okay, go for it.
How do you want me to act as a judge? Do you want me to stop you, interject? Do you want me to do it all?
Yeah.
So those are the options.
Because we can do whatever, we can do whatever. And make sure your kids know that this is someone coming in that's using their time to come out to work with you. Because there's been, I would count on one hand 4 times, and there was always a marching rehearsal that I've left during the water break. Seriously, I would just go, we'd rehearse, I'd call it rehearsal. It was like a circus, for about an hour. And then I'd look at the director and I'd go, we need to take a water break. Said, okay, band, take 15 minutes. And I go to the director real quietly and go, I'm going to go because this is a waste of my time. Don't send me a check. Just never call me again unless you figure out how to have your kids disciplined. And said, no hard feelings. I'll never mention your name to anybody. I might use
except on the Ask Mike podcast.
But I didn't say a name. I could easily list all 4 of those directors and their bands. It's sometimes it's not worth my time. It's not. They don't pay enough money for me to waste my time and be treated like dirt. Where kids rolling their eyes, kids arguing with me. That's not right. Telling me I'm not right. It's like. No, I'm leaving. I'm going to go home. I'm going to watch the new James Bond movie, or whatever the case is. I'm done with this. So make sure the kids know that a guest is coming. Another one. Make sure your administration, if it's during the school day, make sure your administration knows there's a guest coming. Just a simple email. So hey, we have a guest coming on this day. He'll be here from this time to this time, just so they feel like they're in the loop. I just want to throw that out there.
Let me ask you this. Is there a line item in the budget for this? If you create...
It depends on the program.
Yeah, it depends on the program. Sometimes it's a booster check.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a Mexican dinner.
Yeah. Sometimes they have money in the budget.
Yeah, sometimes I had a line item in my budget where I could pay clinicians out of. And if you're very fortunate, you will have that. But there's some clinics, if it doesn't involve a lot of travel, I'm not going to travel a long ways to do a clinic for free. I'll put that up straight up. I'm not going to drive 2 hours to do a clinic for free, but I'll drive 30 minutes. And they'll say, well, I don't know. We just don't have a lot of money. So can you do this video for me? Yeah. Can you watch a video? And I say, yeah. And they'll say, hey, why don't I come out on one day? Oh, well, we just don't have it. I don't know. Do you have a Dairy Queen? So how about a hamburger and some fries? And so yeah, come on out.
If it's a small town, they have a Dairy Queen.
They have a Dairy Queen, yeah, except if it's sundown. Sundown does not have a Dairy Queen.
I know that you do this as well. You can actually welcome people to send you recordings. You do it from your living room or wherever your stereo set up.
A little studio with my Yamaha studio cabinets and my 65-inch monitor, and I play it through there. And I watch, like if it's a marching one, I'll watch it with the sound off. Then I'll listen to it with the video off. Then I'll have sound and video together while I'm taking notes in a yellow pad, and then I make a judge's critique. Mm-hmm. And the cool part about doing a video, I love it because unlike a marching contest, you can stop it and start it. So they'll do something and you'll chink and you'll stop the recording and go, hey, this is how I would fix this. Then you give them some ideas and you start again. And it might be a 15-minute judge's critique. But there's a lot of bands that I didn't receive a penny for that. And it's fine because I enjoy helping people. But, there's some of those bands were at the state marching contest,
mm-hmm.
And it's not because I did that, because they were smart enough to reach out to like 10 people.
Right.
And then they have this buffet of clinicians.
Well, so you said something about recordings and things, Derrick. I want to just bring this up right now.
Okay, go for it.
Because we're headed into concert season, and Intune Music and Sound is one of the music stores that sponsors a free service where you can send in your recordings. You can show up as a director and listen, and they have clinicians that offer comments, oral comments, and then also just one-on-one. We'll talk to the director.
Yeah, it's a great experience. And not only is it free to the band director, they actually get lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So they say there's not such as a free lunch. Intune's buying lunch, so it's not free. But
we've been doing those on Sunday afternoons, like in February and
late January. Yeah,
late January, February. So this is just a little plug for that. That's a free service that I would highly recommend. And we've had groups from all across the state submit.
Yeah. I had a middle school from Port Neches Grove.
Mm-hmm.
Submit videos. Mr. Austin Wolf, good friend of mine. And I've went down there one time to work his band, but man, it's a long drive. You've lived down in that area. Oh my God. It took me 2 days to drive there and back.
Here to Beaumont, it's probably 8, 9.
Yeah, and that's an hour and a half in Houston trying to get across.
But let me ask, I'm going
The GPS thing that says Houston 2 hours, and it shows you're in Houston.
Yeah,
to.
true.
I've told Mike before, I bought my first trumpet on my own. I was in Katy, west side of Houston.
Okay.
H&H was downtown Houston.
Uh-huh.
That's the longest drive I've ever made in my life in one city, going down there and back. But because you brought that up, Jay, is there a timing thing on that? Because a lot of the advantage of like a listening session like that is learning style, learning some of the trouble spots that experienced directors go, all right, I know you're giving this your best, but listen to this pattern, or listen to that, or the balance, or here's how you can make those flutes sound better. Early on clinician, as opposed to waiting for 3 days before contest when there's not really a lot we can do at this
No, I
point.
think that's a great statement.
Yeah.
You got to have progress checks.
Yes.
And you have to be brave enough to record your group at different times, even early on.
And that's hard, isn't it, Jay?
And what
That's
can we play at this point?
Yeah.
And sometimes these listening sessions, they might bring 2 out of 3 recordings, 2 out of 3 songs,
Or even part of a piece.
part of a piece. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. Something I do at the college level with my trumpet students, if they can't play all of a solo for a student recital, we'll play part of it.
Yeah.
Who says you can't do that?
Yeah. I tell you, a really smart guy, Mission Austin Wolf down in Port Neches, a middle school director. He sends me audio of his warm-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already done some, when his concert band first came out of, the fall, and he got divided into first band, second band or whatever. And I think that's brilliant. And so this is a call out to Austin Wolf, because if he doesn't call me and tell me he heard this on the podcast, then I know he doesn't listen to my podcast. Yeah. So Austin, you're being called out right now. But he'll send me his Christmas concert music. And it's interesting to go, hey, yeah, your clarinets don't get really the sound I would like them to get. Here's some things to try with them as far as equipment and pedagogy. And I think that's brilliant, because my analogy for that, I'm a man of analogies. I love it. I'll come and do a clinic, and I know Jay's been in this situation, and there's just so much to work on, and the cake's already baked. You know what I mean? It's like at the end of the clinic, I go, man, I tried everything I could, but that's like building a brand new house. And then when it's all finished, going, I really didn't want that door there.
No, the glue is set.
Yeah. No, that door's there. We're not moving the door. That door cannot be moved now. The house is finished. The front door is finished. And so it's the old story of sometimes directors think they're too sick to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
It's the worst recording you have is the best one for me to work on. If you're submitting for honor band, you're wasting your time giving it to Michael Lenny, because I'm just going to go, it sounds good to me. I mean, this is you're already going to submit this, right? Yeah, I'm going to submit it. Who am I to say, I would have done this different? It's like, no, that cake is baked,
Well, and again, get it done early enough. I've actually watched people turn around and go, why did you pick this?
Yeah.
Why are you all, and in a sweet way, not in my way, but you guys can't play this.
Yeah, Derrick, that's a great point you bring up. And I had that in my notes also.
I'd go for it, Jack.
And so this is something Don Hanna would say. And I loved it. If you can't get it ready in 8 weeks, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, because I know how many of us know people that work on their music for 5 months.
Yeah.
Or for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
If you can't get it ready in 8 weeks, you probably shouldn't be playing it. And he would also do this thing where he'd call it the first trashing and the second trashing.
Okay. I like that.
So he would just take it out. Okay, here we go. We're going to read it. And he would start conducting, and he wouldn't stop.
You just hung on.
He wanted to see if the majority of the band could make it from the beginning to the end. Now, it doesn't mean that they had to play all of it, but that they weren't totally lost.
Yeah.
He was like, if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be playing it.
I like that.
And I thought that it makes a lot of sense.
That does.
Because if you're just, if you're having to just spoon feed it, rote teach all of it, there's no way you're going to get it polished.
Yeah. Because we both know directors that'll teach the intro to the march until it's correct. Then they'll teach the first 4 measures, the first strain of the march till it's correct. And the kids can play and they play well. But I love that idea because we've got to know conceptually, do they understand what's happened? Can they recover from mistakes?
Right.
If they get lost, can they figure out that, there's the trombone? Okay. Yeah, I think I know where we're at.
You've got to keep those top students interested.
Oh, yeah.
So
man, the good ones love it.
If you're just holding them down constantly, they're going to get tired of that.
Yeah. No doubt.
But the other part of that too, I think you have to know the trajectory of your program. Where are we in this process? Did I take over and we're going to have to start realistically, quit worrying about my pride. What do these kids need to learn to be successful at this step so we can take the next step? And maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, you're pulling out stuff that you always wanted to, like Mike, don't say it, pulling out stuff that they can handle now, as opposed to
well, Derrick, you bring up
stuff
a great
I can
point.
handle.
So there's two sides to picking music. One, do they like it? And 2, do you like it?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to like it well enough that you can live with it for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And don't play something just because you like it.
Oh, God.
How many times have you seen bands, Mike, that the director is familiar with the piece and they think, I love this piece, and they pick it because of that reason, and they don't have the right instruments or the right stars to play it?
Yeah, you can look on Texas Music Forums under Mike Lenny, and you'll see the second divisions of where I've done that. I had a great
Mike. Say what you say. Give your theory is play what you can for an evaluation.
Yeah.
What is it?
Play what you want to at the spring concert. Play what you wish you could play. Only in the band hall.
Well, and
because I would, with my Wiley band, I'd pass out, Lincolnshire Posey. There's no way we're doing that for contests. But Will Miller, who's now at Greenwood, he enjoyed playing that little cornet solo. I mean, there's times you got to introduce him, do some Alfred Reed or something, and then you got to bump back to where reality is,
But it's a disservice to them if you're picking stuff that they're never going to get, and you're just bullheaded, forcing them to get a 2.
Well, and you know what you said just a minute ago, picking things you like. Don't pick things that you as the director can't teach.
Yeah, I've done that too.
I mean, because there's times when you, like early on in your career, you're probably not going to be able to tackle Lincolnshire.
Yeah. You played it in college maybe, and you think, well, I played it, but that's like saying I've watched NASCAR, so I can run the Daytona 500.
Right.
Yeah. It's a different viewpoint from the steering wheel, driver's seat than it is from the stands. But yeah, that's all, man. That's good stuff. That's things where they mess up. I think the main thing that I see as a clinician when I go in, and Jay, I want you to bounce off of this, is directors, for the most part, this is a really broad brush I'm painting with, they're worried about the notes and rhythms. And then you go in and it's just not a good band sound, and we don't play in tune. And I just tell them, said, there's so many bands, and I'll admit this. So if I'm one of your judges this coming season, there's bands that I will bend over backwards to give them a first division if I can possibly do it. If they play in tune and they play with a pretty sound.
So I have,
but the opposite way, it's like, there's no way I'm going to give that band first division if they can't play in tune consistently,
I've got this thing that I started a few years ago, and it's been working great. First thing I do when we're warming up, I'll look around the room, and if all the trombone slides are pushed in tight, and trumpet slides are in the wrong spots, and clarinets are pushed all together, I'll just stop and say, everybody look at your instrument right now. And I want you to, clarinets pull out about, almost 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
And trombones, you need to be out 1 inch. And I'll just tell them where to set them, because that's the normal. If their embouchure is right, that's where it should be in tune.
You're correct.
And it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
It's a better place to start than it is to go in and they're all wrong, and they're making that crunchy, awful sound where half of them are sharp, half are flat, and very few are in tune.
Yeah.
It does not cancel out.
No, it doesn't.
And
It's not an average.
And that pitch center is most important.
Yeah.
I'll have people say something like, wow, the group sounds really good. Well, that's because they have a good pitch center.
Yeah.
That's play in the middle of the note.
Yeah. And even on a more basic level, my watershed moment is make sure the stands are adjusted right. And then number 2, everyone take your horn and hold it up and move the slide for me. So every trumpet player has to hold their horn and move the slide on it. You know what I mean? And if you're in a band program and you know what you're dealing with then, you know, it's like a blind date. When you're a clinician, it's like a blind date. You don't know what you're dealing with till you come through the door. And then if no one's slide moves, it's like, all right, we don't have time to fix all the slides. Let's just work on dynamics and notes and rhythms.
Right.
And so you've got to do those watershed moments. I'm sure the band's wondering, why does he care? You know, and even the director may, but I think directors shy away from that because honestly, that's the hardest thing to teach.
And tune one section at least a day.
Yes.
I like maybe Mondays it's flutes, Tuesdays it's make sure you're doing some kind of tuning at first.
Yeah.
Where you take time to listen to every student. My favorite story on tuning, I was working at a marching contest about probably 12 years ago, and somebody said, we need an emergency repair down at warm up. Okay, what's going on? Well, the band director went to tune and all of the slides are stuck and the mellophones and the trombones.
He's like,
and I
wait
said,
until the day it comes.
it can't be an emergency on the day of contest.
Yeah.
You say failure to plan.
I'm not sure that I would move those at this point.
Oh, it brings up a whole, we could go a whole nother tangent on that. The director that sits and warm up and tunes the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they've never tuned their band until the day of contest and warm up. Mark Smith, the greatest repairman in the world, such a warm, congenial personality too.
Shout out to Mark.
Shout out to Mark. But I guarantee he hears some really funky stuff going on. You know, it's there's bands that come in that they just go to the harmony director and they just punch an F, and then the band plays, and then we tune to that harmony keyboard and we just do our thing. And there's some that come in and for the first time in the semester, they get an electronic tuner. Mm-hmm. And they tell the kids, push in, pull out, push in, push in. Pretty soon slides are falling out of horns. And, so that has very little to do with being a clinician, but I don't know. You touched a spot there.
Yeah, but I'm going to ask you there, as a clinician, is that one of those times that you just go, all right, I need to teach this guy how to tune his band.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do today. Yeah. And I realize you wanted me to go through Lincolnshire Posey, but let's learn concert F and B flat in tune first.
Or at least do like a little 5-minute session. Mm-hmm. Just take the first clarinets. And the greatest thing, I don't know why Don Hanna keeps coming up, because he worked here in our little town for a little bit, but he'd come out to my band hall. But I loved it when he would have 2 kids play and it would be out of tune and he'd go, fix it. And he'd just stare at them. And the kids would look at him because they're expecting him to do the Mr. Lenny thing of you need to push in, you
in, out, in,
yeah. And he'd just go, fix it. If it gets worse, you went the wrong way.
Right.
And he goes, it's not rocket science. And that was one of the best. The other lesson I don't know if we'll get to, so I've got to say this, because one of my really bad habits, Jay, was when I conducted the band, I would hum. And he was standing next to me, and he reaches up and he grabs my wrist and kind of pulls the baton down and motions to me. We go around the deal into the office. The kids are all sitting there like, Mr. Lenny's in trouble. What are you doing? And I go, I'm just trying to teach. He goes, don't ever hum. So because you're hearing yourself hum and you're not hearing a thing your band's doing.
Exactly.
And it took me a while to get over that habit. And I had to get into conjunction with my flutes and clarinets to help me with that. It said, if you hear me humming, you start coughing loudly. And they went,
give me the signal.
We go, got it, ladies or gentlemen, but yeah, I want to throw that in because I don't know if we'd get to it.
Okay. So let me do a quick, I'm trying to make sure I'm still on track with you guys, that we need to talk with our clinicians that we're hoping for, see if they're available on a certain date. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure we have clear instructions how to get to where we are so they can conduct. Before they get there, I almost said when they get there, but before they get there, let's have a clear idea for them of what you're wanting them to do. Mm-hmm. And then, so let me ask you this. At that point, do you just, once you've established that, if you're wanting them to actually work the band, do you just shut up and get out of the way?
No, you
Is that your preference as a clinician, or
I don't have a preference.
It's whatever they want.
It's whatever.
you understand what I'm saying? If they say, I want you to do it all,
Then you do it.
then don't interrupt.
Yeah. It's like I worked the holiday band the day before prelims at state marching. And Dane, it was like a 3-hour rehearsal. He just goes, I'm just going to turn this over to Mr. Lunny. Here's the headset. And I just worked him for 3 hours. And Dane played the role of the clinician because he just wanted to hear from a different viewpoint. It helped him to hear someone else work the band. So to answer your question, it doesn't matter to me. I'll be the person on the side giving information. Do they want to be worked on more to be a better director? Do they want me there to work more with the band? Is this a tuning issue? Is this a tone quality issue? Is this a dynamics issue? Is this a air issue? You know what I mean? Are they breathing correctly? I'll do a 30-minute session on how we properly breathe to make a good sound in band, because maybe they haven't done that, and that's good for the director as well.
Right. I guess where I'm actually going with my question is, once you decide as the director, and the whole point of this is how to prepare your kids for the best possible clinic. Really, that's what we're saying. What do I need to do as the director of this program to allow this clinician to do the most, or have the most successful time with my kids, to give them the best experience they can have? But I think there's a moment where we have to stop and go, I can't figure out how to teach this. And I don't mean that we had the conversation, if you can't teach it, why are you playing it? But there's just a spot that I'm not getting through to them.
Right.
I'm not accomplishing what needs to be done. Then be smart enough to get out of the way and let somebody else have a go at it, and let them teach you, whether you tell the kids that or not. I'm fairly transparent. It doesn't bother me if the kids think I'm not smart enough to do something, as long as we get where we're going.
Yeah. And you have to be thick-skinned. My favorite Bill Wood stories, we were doing a Second Suite in F by Holst, and he stopped us it's a blacksmith, stopped us on that one. He goes, band, let's go ahead and go to the next movement. Let's go to the next movement because you're not conducting that correctly. I'll teach you second period. I go, yes, sir. And
you got it.
He sat there for an hour and worked with me on how to conduct it. I practiced for an hour that night. The next morning I came in, I conducted that movement, and every note was exactly in the right place because I conducted it correctly. But you got to be thick-skinned enough and not all directors that way. And I have, as a clinician, that's an important part for those of you doing clinics. You've got to read the room. If you really if I came in and I was working Jay's band, I know him well enough that within legal limitations, I could say about anything. You know what I mean? And he would be like, okay, let's give that a try. But there's some directors, you kind of have to be a little more hands off, and say, well, I better meet with them after rehearsal and talk about that.
Well, we've said this before, and I think Jay's in our club, that our mentors and our people that helped us get where we are weren't nearly as concerned about our feelings as people are these days.
No, they didn't care if we lived or died.
But they weren't scared to say, what is that?
Yeah. Is someone holding a gun to your head and making you play this march, Mike?
But Mike, you did touch on something that a lot of times they don't want a conducting lesson in front of the band.
Right.
You don't want to make them feel bad about what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I can remember having Bill Woods out, others, man, you have to be ready to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
You said JR. I mean, that was just,
oh my goodness.
I didn't know it was coming.
Bill said, we read through or played a piece for him. It was like a week before contest. And he goes, you're playing that for contest? Yeah.
Well, one year,
here we go, Mike.
One year I switched a tune on the day of pre-UIL.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, this sounds like you're just now reading it. I said, we are.
Written by me, sight reading with concert this year.
We can get it learned.
Yeah.
That's okay. So make us more successful, guys. What else can we do to make a clinic?
I would say one other thing to jump onto as the person hosting the clinic is and this isn't a narcissistic thing. I think it just works better, but always go to the side of the clinician during the clinic. In other words, if there's a difference of opinion between the band director and the clinician, don't bring that out in front of the kids.
Right.
And I always preface that, or I give the disclaimer at the beginning. I go, okay, I'm here to clinic the band. I'm going to do all these different things. Tomorrow, if Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so want to change it back, they are the boss.
Right.
They're the boss. This is their band. You are the band that works here. I'm just here to give ideas. But for this moment, everything I say is going to be gospel. And then you can change it back later. And that usually diffuses the situation. But
I think that's fantastic from
with me, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't come here to argue. I'm sorry,
I do think that's fantastic from the standpoint of I can't learn if I'm going to argue with everything you say as the host director.
Or to add to that, to make excuses.
Or
how many times, I've already taught them that.
Or the student says, well, they told me to do it like this.
Yeah. My private lesson teacher says to do it this way.
Or my director said, we're supposed to do it this way.
Yeah.
Well, let's try it like this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, you said, how could you prepare? Some things that I have seen, some really good clinics, and I'll host clinics at Hardin Simmons. This is kind of a neat thing we do where you can take a field trip to a college and do a 2-hour clinic during the school day.
Yeah.
That is completely legal.
Yeah.
Can't do that in your band hall during the school day.
Right.
You can go a field trip to a college. So over at Hardin Simmons, we'll host a school, and I'll make sure every student has a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell them ahead of time, make sure everybody has a pencil. And if they can do like name tags over the stands, that helps a little bit. So we're not just saying, hey, you.
Yeah.
Those are things that it's extra, but the pencil is required.
Yeah.
You have to be able to mark your music.
Yeah.
The thing that I say a lot, and we use the pencils for marking fingerings or notes or sharps, naturals, flats, but having a phrasing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because have a breathing plan or where not to breathe. Because I see that as being number one. We say it all the time. You're dropping phrases. How many times have you said that?
Yeah.
Either on paper or in a recorder.
Yeah.
And they need to know what that means and what it sounds like.
Yeah. Or better yet, just switch that around to this is where we're going to breathe.
Right.
Instead of we're dropping a phrase, we are going to breathe on count 3.
Or half the band's going to breathe here.
Yeah. And the other half's going to breathe here.
Right.
Just give them a plan. But yeah, I started that tradition at Hardin Simmons with Wayne Dorothy because it was a way to get around the rule. We called it College Day, and he would go and he would take us through the music building. It really was a college day.
No,
and then
we take him in the cafeteria.
Yeah, we'd eat at the cafeteria and so forth, and he'd work the band. But he couldn't come to my band hall and do a 2-hour rehearsal because you can't do that. But I could go do a college day at Hardin Simmons. So, it was always so, and the kids just loved it. They just loved it, and the college kids loved it.
Oh, yeah.
They would come in and be like big brothers and sisters, and you know what I mean? It was kind of a cool moment.
We have the music ed students come and watch.
Yeah.
Or play along, help out. They have to take notes.
Yeah, that is really cool. And
it's a simple psychology thing. You're doing the same thing, but you're doing it in a different place or a different way.
Hey,
and suddenly everybody's engaged.
Yeah, and another thing to do for preparation, I would advise all people who are having a clinician come out, do your music in the order of the hardest piece to the easiest piece. Because a lot of them will come out and say, well, let's start with the march. And now I've done it enough that I'll go, does the march really need any work? Oh, no, actually, we're doing this piece. It's about 5 minutes long at the end. Why don't we start with that one? Because I do it in contest order. And so all of a sudden I have 2 hours, and I work an hour and 15 minutes on the march. And all of a sudden we get to their big opus, whatever, Magnus, and then you're working and you're going, oh my God.
And you have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I've got 5 minutes left and the bell's about to ring and there's about 1,000 things I should not have been working on the march. So be prepared as the one hosting a clinician to not disagree with their opinion, but to tell them, hey, let's move to the next piece.
And another thing you can do and this may be contrary to what some people think, but Anthony Gibson would say this, we're going to do an abbreviated warm-up today.
Yes.
We're not going to do our full warm-up.
Unless that was the main purpose of me coming out.
Right.
You're right. It's like play a concert B-flat scale, F around the room. Here we go.
Right.
We're not here to teach fundamentals if that's not what the main focus is going to be. Because they will, you're right, because I'll go up there and they'll warm up the band for 20 minutes and they'll give me the final 20 minutes to work the band. I'm going, all right, I've heard all the blue book I can stand today. And they do it well, but it's like, they just go through their routine.
Right.
They do that. But that's a great point, Jay. It's a fantastic point.
I'm going to ask you this because I may be out of the loop. You're talking about 2 hours during the school day. There was a time that most of our clinics happened outside of school hours. Is that not as popular anymore?
It's still popular.
Still acceptable. Some people will do like a 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and you'll go through before school through first period. Others will do like 4 to 6 after school.
Yeah.
Right.
Or 6 to 8 or a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Those are all completely legal. Where you can't do it is when it's the same as the football team practicing during English class.
Yeah. They can't just have,
you can't practice outside of the period.
Yeah.
So if I were to say, we're going to have a clinic from 8 in the morning till noon, and the kids are going to miss second, third, fourth period, that's not legal.
Right.
Okay.
If you're on campus.
Yeah.
Cool. What else you got there, Mike?
Oh, let's see. One thing that I would advise them to do is try to teach their music in totality with dynamics.
I love that.
Because so many times I go to do a clinic and Jay's laughing over here because he knows exactly. So I've actually heard directors have said this to me. Hey, we've got all the notes and rhythms worked out. Can you put the music in for us? And it's like, what? Well, we haven't done any dynamics yet.
Or we're going to teach articulation later.
Yeah, we're going to do that later.
Mike.
Later.
And I've said that before, the same thing. Do everything.
Do everything.
At the beginning.
It's like in marching band, the directors that wait to put in the body movement the week before contest. Or I've done a marching clinic where I've said, hey, we need to kind of work on the shape of our leg. It needs to be like an L shape when we're marching forward. And this, a nice, pretty glide step would look really cool here. And he goes, oh, we haven't gotten to that yet. It's 2 weeks before contest. What do you mean? You've had all the summer band, you've been to 6 football games, and you haven't gotten to the idea of how we move our feet yet? I don't say that to him, but that's what's spinning in my brain. And I just go, oh, well, let's work on it now. Let's work on it.
No time like the present.
No time. When's the best time to plant a tree? Right now. Right now is the best time to plant a tree.
There's this sign in the theater director's office in his classroom over at Abilene High. It says, Lin-Manuel Miranda has exactly the same number of minutes in the day that you do. And I looked at that and went, wow, that is so profound.
That is.
Because, you think about it, Hebron High School.
Yeah.
Marcus, Flower Mound, all those that we think of.
They have the same time as Wiley High School.
They have the same number of practice minutes as any other 1A school around here.
Yeah.
So it's what you do with the time.
Yeah.
So teach everything all at once.
Yeah. And, you're not spoon feeding them. It's a whole different world. I know just from playing my trumpet, if I tried to learn a piece of music and then decided before I had to perform it to go ahead and do the dynamics, it changes everything about the music. It changes where I breathe. It changes how I breathe. It changes everything. You can't just go, oh, now we're going to play soft here and we're going to play strong here and we're going to do a forte piano. That changes everything. So you can't do that to your kids.
So let me be the advocate. You guys shout me down if you need to. That's hard. It seems overwhelming and is harder at first to say that as an actual teacher, especially as a new teacher, to try to think of teaching everything all at once feels kind of overwhelming, I think. But as your kids learn, teaching the totality becomes easier because they're automatically doing some of it because they're better musicians.
Yeah, it is a cultural thing that you teach because I always enjoyed teaching all 3 sections of my beginning brass. There's it was all split up, French horn, low brass, trumpet. But we would make up dynamics to write in the lines. So I would have to teach them dynamics as 6th graders that were more so than what was actually in the music. And then that carries over into junior high. Now, I know you're right. If you go into a program that's been just decimated and they've been making 4s and 5s and you're the brand new director, Hey, man, I'll cut you a whole bunch of slack. I understand. You're just trying to get their butts in chairs. That might be your only goal, is to have the pants hemmed correctly for the first ball game. And I respect that 100%. But, as quick as you can, it's got to be, we've got to do dynamics with this. That's part of the music. We've got to play with balance and blend. It's not just notes and rhythms on that. Okay. Another thing I'd throw in there, for the people who are hosting the clinician, don't waste time making excuses for every problem in the music during the clinic.
How many times have you been to a band hall where they were putting down the former band director?
Oh, yeah.
And I just think,
no.
That is very lowbrow.
It is, especially in a small town, because everyone's either related to them or they hate them. And either way, that word's going to get around.
Or they have allegiance.
They have allegiance. They
Even
love
if
them,
that
hate them,
person
but related.
Was good or bad, they're going to have some people that will be very loyal to that person.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. And they will. They'll make excuses. They'll talk bad about former teachers. They'll talk bad about other clinicians in front of me, and they'll ask my opinion in front of the band. I'm going, this is not the time or place for this. And you're speaking of a good friend of mine, said, can we work on the music? This isn't the View. So we're not here to espouse opinions on people. We're here to fix the music. But man, that is so true, because that happens. It's a defensive mechanism, and the making of excuses, that's a defensive mechanism. The not wanting to make recordings, that is a defensive mechanism. All of that's defensive mechanisms, and you've got to get past that through therapy or whatever you need to do. But you've got to be able to sit there and just take it. Thank you, sir. May I have another? You know what I mean? You just got to sit there and take it in rehearsal as the one hosting the clinician, because you will be better off. You will be. And then I want to throw this in. Unless they just say they can't do it, I always tell them, can we please just have a meeting after the rehearsal so we can kind of figure out what went good, what went bad? I want you to tell me what you think I could have done better. This isn't all about trying to make you better. I'm trying to make me better as well. And sometimes I can't do that. Maybe it'd be a phone call later. But there's something weird about just doing a clinic, isn't it, Jay? And just dropping the baton, you get in your car and you drive off going, well, that was something.
And there's no wrap up.
There's no wrap up. The bell rang and they go.
I don't know what you do, but I always, when I get back to my office, I type up notes.
Yeah. I'm a note person.
And I send it through email. That way they have some written record of what we talked about.
Yeah. I like that a lot. And then we get to the last two items is we talked about a little bit with me leading during water break on a couple of bands, but discipline issues. I don't mind asking a student to be quiet. I don't mind saying you need to pay attention. I don't mind saying, why are you standing up? Where are you going? I don't mind doing that, but I'm not there to handle the discipline of that band. If there's things happening and the director's not intervening, that's when I leave. I can teach a band that doesn't know their notes or their fingerings. I can do that all day long. It doesn't bother me in the least, but I am not going to be Mr. DPS policeman when you can tell that band's never been disciplined in their life, because if they've driven the speed limit they want to drive their whole life, having a new DPS officer on that street is not going to change the drivers that one day, So I would say that. I know you probably got some great stories about that with, discipline can be an issue, because if they don't have their band, and I'll say this easily, my bands were never the tightest ship in the dockyard. It was not it was a pretty loosely run organization, and we got lots of good stuff done, but you have to run your band as your personality is. And you can't come in and be J.R. McIntyre if the band is not a J.R. McIntyre type of band. So you've got to communicate that to your clinician about, how I do it. I say, do you want and I use J.R. McIntyre because most of the West Texas people know who he is. Do you want the J.R. McIntyre clinic, or do you want the grandpa clinic? And I said, my kids really need the grandpa clinic.
The pep talk.
Yeah. And I said, very well, I can do the grandpa clinic. On a scale of 1 to 10 on who's going to get hurt in this clinic, no one's going to get hurt in this clinic. Everything's going to be, let's work on this a little more. Okay, that's much better. I can hear the improvement. Instead of, why did you not practice your parts, trumpets? You're letting the band down. You have to practice your music. You've got to learn. So you've got to communicate that to your clinician.
There should be nobody crying at the.
Yeah, there should be no crying in band.
No tears.
Either
Especially the clinician.
the students or the clinician.
Yeah, that's right. I've kind of come to tears a couple of times, and it wasn't because the music was that emotional.
But I'm telling you, I think there's times that as the clinician, you're like, you brought me in here to be the bad guy.
Yes. They wanted
because
man.
You didn't do this on your own. You're making me the bad guy.
It's not going to work.
Mm.
And then after the fact, you can go, I know he was rude about that, but let's see if we can.
And the last one is, how do you approach like compensation?
So,
Jay,
it's funny because there are certain topics that you talk about: religion, politics, and money.
Yeah. They're awkward.
Are awkward. So, when I was in personnel with at HR, all those kind of things, when I was leading a fine arts department, you just hit it head on. You just tell them, this is what it is. This is what I'm going to do. And if they say, well, I don't have any money, go, well, that's fine.
Then you work
this out. But, they're all different structures. Some people charge mileage. Some people just say it's X amount of an hour. And that includes the travel up to your town. That's the way I do it. I don't know how you're probably a little bit more organized with the contract.
No, there's no contract. Unless you consider an email a contract or text. I do it all through email and text. But I do approach that because what I don't mind if there's not a lot of travel, and I've said that earlier, I don't mind doing a clinic because it's just a few hours out of my day, and it's the travel that gets me down. It really does. But I hate in my earlier clinic career, showing up and doing a 3-hour clinic and getting a check for $50.
It's insulting.
Yeah. And it's not the person who invited me's fault. It's not their fault. That's what they pay clinicians. That's my fault. I should have said, I charge $120 an hour for clinic work done, plus 70 cents a mile for mileage, plus 140 nights a night for hotel, if that's necessary, plus per diem. And then I just plop all that down there, and then they either pay it or they go, we don't have that in our budget. So, well, what can you do? Oh, well, we can do $150 if you'll come out, and we can take you to Dairy Queen and get a hamburger. Good. Let's do it. I just don't want to be surprised.
Right.
It's my fault. That's not the director's fault. That's my fault. I'm insulted because of my own stupidity in that, because there's nothing else in our life we would do that. I wouldn't take a job working for Derrick Killam at Intune Music and not even know what I was being paid. Think about that. You're going to be the store manager. Okay. And then he gives me a check for $50 at the end of the week. Thank you, Mike. Oh, well, crap. I didn't know I was only being paid $50 a week, so that's a really off the end of the spectrum example. But, that would be my fault because I'm the one who's taking the gig.
And that goes back to communication.
And they're afraid to communicate because sometimes they see the clinician as this, and I hate to say this otherworldly person who's been accomplished, and they're a heavyweight in the band world here in this part of Texas, and I just don't want to insult them with this and that. And it's like, no, we're used to being insulted. Just tell us what you need, send us recordings, and we'll make it work, man. We'll make it work.
Right. You just actually hit one of my soapboxes, so give me 2 seconds. Number one, if you do a good job as a clinician, this is a community that talks. Everybody's going to go, man, did a great job. You should go check out Jay or Mike. They'll do a fantastic job for you. Number two, well, what'd you pay them? And so it's not like you're broaching a subject that they haven't already thought about or had a conversation about.
Yeah.
Number three, again, as a clinician, it's your own fault if you don't say anything about it. But speaking to because we're trying to help the directors, as you're planning on having somebody come out and you're thinking, who could I get for $50? Then you're approaching that wrong. If that's all you think somebody's worth, why are you even bringing them in? You're wasting everybody's time in a mental.
Yeah. Unless they had to buy some equipment and they just don't have the money.
You understand?
I would almost rather not be paid.
Yes. I guess you're perfectly correct on that. I'd rather not be paid $50. I'd rather be able to say I did it pro bono.
Right.
But you understand my point.
Yes.
It's a perception thing. If you're looking for the cheapest clinician you can find, you're going to get the cheapest clinic.
Yeah.
if that's your approach.
Yeah.
If your approach is, Mr. Lester, Mr. Lunny, listen, I really need you to come help this group. Here's where I am. Is that amenable? Because I know the conversation then goes yes or no, but let's work something out.
Yeah. And also put all the other things on the table. Like some schools, you have to fill out a vendor packet. And
Goodness.
and
Wichita Falls,
I'm a blue tag member of Wichita Falls.
30 pages.
I had to give him a copy of my passport to prove I was an American citizen, plus get fingerprinted. Yeah, you're a blue card member?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like American Express Black Card, except you can't charge anything on it. But it's crazy. But I went through that because I'm just such a fan of Loy Studer. I just am. But there's a band yesterday that's a state level 4A band in marching that invited me to come clinic next fall. We set up 2 clinics. We talked about the pay. They were going to compensate me very fairly for my travel and my time. But they said, we got to have you fill out a vendor clinic. It was our packet. It was 19 pages. And there's been about 5 or 6 times, and this is the latest one. I just called them back and said, I'm not filling out this paperwork. I'm not doing it, because you have to fill all this stuff out and claim that you were never arrested for a felony for abuse of a child. And you've got to be fingerprinted and have all these pictures taken and all this stuff. And it's like, this is not worth my time and effort. So I'd rather go somewhere else where I just have to hand in my driver's license. So I've got a lifetime teaching certificate. I've never been in trouble with the law. I have a driver's license. I'm clear. And they said, no, you got to fill out the vendor package. So, well, there's no hard feelings, no grudges. But I would say this. If you know you have a pretty comprehensive vendor package, you might mention that when you you call.
The way I look at that, because Wichita Falls had an extensive.
Yeah, they're the king of the vendor packets.
Well,
sorry, Lloyd.
And there's everyone in the Metroplex like that too now.
Yeah.
So I look at it like, am I going to be there once, or I'll just tell them, if I'm going to do this, I need to come do multiple things.
Yeah, and that's how it happened with Lloyd, because
it's a 2 or 3 hour extra time.
Yeah. And it's like they went to go do their all-city middle school band. And I told Lloyd, I said, I would like to think that you chose me because of my musical ability, my ability to conduct the band, but I know that I'm the only one with a blue tag.
Filled out the paperwork.
I've already filled out all the paperwork, so they just had to,
But Mr. Lester, put your administrator hat on for me real quick. I mean, there's 2 sides to things, but is this an annual thing that everybody that comes into the district has to do every year? Or is this
usually you do a vendor packet once.
You do it once, and then like for Wichita Falls and most of the places I already have them done, they send you a letter each fall saying, do you wish to continue to be on our vendor packet list? And you sign it. And
occasionally you might have to send in a new W-2.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
That's minor. After you do that initial one.
But it is
other places that it's just like they just write you a booster check and you go in the back door and
But there's things in those vendor packets of you do not profess to support the Israeli government and their dealings in the Middle East. I'm serious, Derrick. I can send you the packet I was sent from that school, and you're going, what does this have to do with any? But it's all bureaucratic, and I understand. But if possible, my point being is, tell them that up front. That way they can go, no, I don't do 19-page vendor packets. I just don't do that anymore. I'd rather go to somewhere else and just get my driver's license and just get my check a month later, and it's fine, or just do a pro bono.
So why don't you bring your band over to Hardin Simmons and we'll not forego the 19-page video?
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
Which,
if you're interested, contact me at.
Their cafeteria, their meal plan's pretty good there.
And you can even have
a really good meal.
You can even have Mike Lunny as your clinician.
Yeah, there you go. Jay will be the host, and I'll just come in clinic, and I'll just do it for the meal at the.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
All right, you two, wrap us up. What's your
I just want to
takeaway for this?
Wrap it up. Said with a little planning and communication, a good clinician can make a significant difference in a band in a short amount of time. It's amazing. Bringing clinicians into my own room as often as possible was an education for me. So if they'll just follow the things we've talked about, you won't leave as a band director going, did we get anything done? You'll leave as a band director going, well, I learned this, this, and this. My kids learned this, this, and this. Now I've got lesson plans for the next 2 weeks. And this was really a worthwhile experience for my band and for me. But it's both on the host plate and it's on ours too.
Yeah. It provides you an inventory.
Yeah.
This is what's going well. These are things I need to work on.
Yes. Yes, it does. And in that communication thing, I just have a template that's on a Word doc, and I just copy and I paste it into the email. And it has all the things I've talked about. If they don't communicate it at first, then I take the reins. I just go, here's the things. Can you answer these questions for me? And they can literally just pull up the email and they can just answer after my question and then send it back to me. And then we're done, on that.
Cool.
So that would be my wrap up. What are you thinking, Jay?
Exactly. Just like I said, it just shows you where you are. Never be afraid to have a clinician early, middle, or late.
Yes.
Because it's important. And one thing that I've seen lately is people that will hire a clinician that will come in 4 or 5 times a year, maybe once a month, and they just kind of assess what's going on.
I love doing that in marching season.
And not just marching, but like middle school that might have somebody in September, November, then January, February.
Yeah.
And that way you're not just getting a snapshot.
Yeah.
You're getting the total picture.
And it's really cool when you have that kind of setup because you can go in and that band's already in the certain mold of how you like them to be.
Mm-hmm.
They've already been coached up to that level. And so then you can do twice as much in a clinic because they understand your terminology. They don't have to get to figure you out.
And they trust you.
Yeah, they know it's just Mr. Lenny, In fact, it's even in a couple of schools, one little Barry sax player goes, "You again?" And he just smiles. Goes, "You again?"
It almost goes with your some old guy story.
Yeah, he goes some old guy at Wiley.
I always felt like it was the best money I spent.
For me too.
Throughout the year.
Yeah.
Was to bring in people like Don Hanna, like Bill Woods, like J.R. McIntyre.
Oh, God, yes. Charles Nail.
Yeah, Bill Surface. I mean, there's so many people that were, and I still have people stop by and watch rehearsal.
Yeah.
I have Keith Bearden, Anthony Gibson. I know I've had several people just say, "Hey, can I come by and watch your rehearsal?"
I used to do that with Wayne. I need to do that with you, Jay. And he just stopped by and just kind of,
and I'll just
walk in the door.
Now, this isn't a clinic, right?
I'll put inputs in your desk as I leave. And
That's awesome.
And throw it in the trash.
But it's that, these people,
that camaraderie,
these mentors that they don't have a rehearsal and they love being in that environment.
Yeah. It's just a curiosity.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, I know neither one of you is adverse to somebody reaching out for help. So we'll tell you, ask Mike at intomusic.com if we can put you in touch with either one of these guys. Obviously, get you in touch with Mike, but we can get you in touch with Jay too. If you need some help, we're at the right time to start thinking about that. Guys, I appreciate you throwing some of that stuff out there because I'm afraid that we're all victims of assumption. It's not necessarily that we're stupid. We just assume how things work. And maybe there's a better way. So thank you all for sharing today.
And thank you, Jay, for giving up your time and your wisdom. This man knows a few things.
Glad to be.
All right. Talk soon.
All right.